Welcome back to JH Diesel. Got another little project we're working on here today. We have the Tour of Destruction this weekend at the Freedom Factory. And so, of course, it's our jobs to start getting stuff ready. A couple days before the event. Why start early? Let's start now. So it's typical for us. It's last minute motorsports. But we came over here and the Tour of Destruction guys was like, man, your bus isn't running. I said, well, that's just not good. It's really bad. The old girl's not doing so hot. So came over here. It is not starting. I can't get it to crank yet. I tried to hook a computer to it. My computer for my heavy duty stuff. I don't do a lot of heavy duty. I haven't used it in forever. It's not wanting to work. The screen will not come on. So we're doing this back to old school ways, troubleshooting a few different things. Hopefully figure out what is going on with this thing. Got somebody coming to help me right now. Justin, he was still at the shop working on some stuff. So I got somebody to come and give me a hand that's here right now somewhere. And they are gonna turn it over. I'm gonna check, at least make sure it's got fuel to the fuel bowl and everything, because they said when you spray starting fluid in it, it does try to fire. So it's either not getting fuel, possibly a crankshaft position sensor. They're very common on these old 7.3 444Es. 7.3 power stroke is basically what's in it. It's a 444E engine. So hopefully we get that figured out and we are good to go. But it is not running yet. Just turns over. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Good old race bus. Got the shifter extension on here. She just turned over like there ain't nothing happening. And unfortunately, see when those gauges settle. Well, oil pressure's building, which is good. But the injectors just ain't firing. Looks like maybe the RPM gauge is moving a little bit, which is usually your telltale sign of a bad camshaft position sensor on these. It's a possibility that the cam sensor is good, but whenever I just looked underneath there, it is fully saturated with oil, coolant, something's been leaking down the front of the motor on it. So we may be having to do that, and if not, gotta figure out how to get in this thing and figure out what is happening here. So bear with me, guys, see what we can get to do. So we have our old camshaft position sensor out, and man, that thing was saturated with oil. This thing's got a really bad oil leak, coolant leak, a couple different leaks. And we got our new one installed right there. I gotta throw the bolt in it. I accidentally snagged the wrong bolt earlier. I couldn't see it. I was doing it by feel. It's kind of more of a pain to get to than you can imagine on these buses. Trucks are way easier. You slide underneath, everything's right there, boom, boom, off. So I am going to get the new sensor bolted in, and at that point, see if this thing fires up. I'm gonna clean the connector out too. I got some brake clean. I'm gonna clean the connector out and see if she fires. All right, new cam sensor is in. Let's see what happens. Cross my fingers. Unfortunately, that does not seem to have fixed our problem. Huh. All right, well, next step. See what I can do here, but that did not seem to fix it, unfortunately. Well, good news. The JH bus will be in action on Friday and Saturday night. Ended up figuring out the PCM or the ECM was bad. So, or PCM, ECM, whatever you want to call that on the 7.3s. It was bad on that bus. So we didn't get software to hook up to it, but one of the Tour Destruction guys found another PCM, plugged it in, and the bus fired right up. So we did try to mess with it and try to make it work, but we just didn't have the I didn't have a scan tool and that kind of stuff, so it was kind of like shooting in the dark. But now that we got it running, we got something pretty cool we're doing. So I got my boy Cleet's bus here at the shop, and he said, and I got James's bus. So that is a 93 international bus. It's got an inline 6 international. I think it's a DT 360 international in that. This is the same as my bus with a 444E. This is a 97, I think, 96, 97. So this is a 444E bus, also a 7.3. So we got these two buses here. He said, man, I need some more power. And we're gonna weld the rear ends on them. My bus, we welded mine. They want welded rear ends on theirs. Helps not pick up the tires going around the corner. So since that's the case, we're about to make these things rip. So I got some power adders, and we're gonna do some exhaust work to them, make them a little bit cooler. So we'll get started on that. We'll pull Cleet's bus in first. Now this bus, we're gonna have to manually turn the pump up on it. I did some research. I've never turned that pump up, but I did some research, found some stuff on it, and I figured out how to turn that one up. So we'll see what we can do to change that one. In the meantime, let's get my boys in here and get some power to it. All right, let's get the hood opened up and see what we're working with here. Yeah, I don't think it's coming up. I tried pulling on it. It's stuck. It's got a little stiction over there. There it goes. Maybe. Woo! I thought she was going. So first things first, this exhaust just is not gonna do. She ends right there. We're gonna make it end somewhere over here or in there. I think we should just run it up through the dash and point it right at him.
In front of the driver's seat, right out of the dash. Just put a little flap where he doesn't know it until he starts racing.
Just starts driving, it just blows open. I agree. All right, we're gonna get this thing dialed here. We're gonna get the exhaust rerouted. That'll be the first thing. And then we got some power adders we're gonna throw on this rig. Well, now I got the exhaust off, so it's looking like I'll be able to cut it right about here. And then just basically turn this thing back the other way. I got some bends I can use on this, so we should be able to make this whole piece of pipe work, and we'll see what we want to do with it. But I think my end goal, I'm going to want it to come out right here. I don't want to run it through the hood, because there's most likely these hoods are going to get ripped off, and if the hood gets ripped off, it's going to rip the exhaust off. So worst case, I just cut the hood right here or something and have the exhaust running through it, and we make her work. So I don't know if we'll put a stack on or what, but first things first, I'll get this thing cut here and then reroute this, possibly cut this 90 out to make it all work. We'll see what happens, but that'll be first thing. All right, now that we got the exhaust started, I'm letting it cool down now. That's kind of the initial welding portion of it. So we got it started there, and we're not totally done, but we got to exit out of the fender. We're gonna open a box up. Our boys over at Power Hungry Performance, huge shout out to them, got us a Hydra chip. And we got what they call an Orion. It's a reflash system for the Navistar engines, computers. So basically this is going to remove your limiters or raise your limiters, your governor, your rev limiter. And this is a programmer or chip, whatever you want to call it. And it's going to plug into the ECM. And basically it's going to have a knot or a button right here. And you're going to turn that up and down for your power levels. So they offer this for your 7.3 Power Stroke trucks. They offer it for your Navistar Internationals, the 444Es, and I know they offer a big selection of tuners and stuff and custom tuning for a lot of stuff out there. So, guys, huge shout out to Power Hungry Performance. Awesome guys to deal with. Got us hooked up, got this stuff right down to us, and we're going to throw this thing in the bus and see what happens. So our dilemma is I was going to have the exhaust coming out of here and dumping out the side, but the problem with that is this bus has obviously been hit all the way up into here. This mirror's been hit, everything. Now it hasn't gone any further than that, and I don't think it will because the tire's here. So for the bus to go any further, I don't think it's gonna go much further than that. But if we try to bring it out here and put the exhaust out here away from the cab, we're gonna run into a problem because I think it's gonna get hit and then it's gonna put tension on the turbo. So I think what the best thing to do is take this little pipe that was on the bottom there they cut off. And I'm just gonna weld her right on there. It's gonna come out of the hood about like that. It just is what it is. That's how we're going to do it. So I'm going to move the hood, cut it, and then weld that last pipe on, and hopefully it works. This hood latch was already broken anyway, so we'll have to tie that back somehow regardless. So it doesn't really matter as far as that goes. So, all right, well, that idea got scratched too. So unfortunately, there's some metal bracing and stuff I would have to cut out, and the hood just wouldn't have been strong enough. So we ended up just doing our original deal, and we're gonna run it right there. I might put a heat shield or something here so it doesn't melt through the air filter box, start a fire, but that's what we're gonna run it out of for now. We may end up changing it if they will get rid of the hood, which is not in the best condition, then I'm gonna run that thing right up through. But if they do not wanna get rid of the hood, then this is our option right here. So hopefully it doesn't get damaged if something were to hit the side. It's flush with the body, so somebody'd really have to come in here and really do something to get the bus up there, but it gets wild out there, so we'll see. Let's fire it up and take a listen. Dude, fire this thing up. Let's see how she sounds. I feel like it'll be a little more throaty sounding. He's too short. Hear that turbo now.
I almost can't hear you talking.
Hit it again. Thing's ready to rip, dude. Now we add more power. So this is your ECM right here, and or PCM, whatever you want to call it. The injector driver module is right there. That's the other computer up above on these, but this is your PCM or ECM. This is what the programmer actually plugs into. I am going to pull this thing off. And we are going to start our install of the programmer or the chip, whatever you want to call it. That is the back of your ECM right there, PCM, or the front. And there's a cover on the back side. You guys will see we're going to pull out, and that is where you access to put the programmer in at. All right, so the ECM, PCM, whatever, it is mounted up under the dash right here. So that is our computer that we need to get out. So I've already disconnected the plug on the outside, and now I've got to get this Phillips head screwdriver bolt loose. Whew, she's tight in here. Now, this isn't, you know, I don't know if it's different on buses compared to other internationals, but this is how this specific chassis is set up. So this bracket here is what holds your computer in. So now that I've got the outside plug off and that, pull the bracket out. And this is the bracket that goes around the computer. And now the computer should be able to sneak its way out of this thing. Get it down here so where I can put the chip in it. All right, so here's our computer. Looks like it is a Virgin. Nobody's ever been in the back of this thing. The little cover's on it. I'll show you guys once we pop this cover off. If I can get off my fingernail, probably have to grab a screwdriver. Yeah, I'll show you guys what's inside there. All right, so that cover is now off. And here's where you're gonna have your board. This is your circuit board inside the computer. And basically this is where your chip or programmer is gonna plug in. Now factory, they come with this really nasty glue that goes on here like a sealant, and you actually have to scrape all that off. So anytime you buy a programmer for these things, it's gonna come with some SOS pad, it's gonna come with a little wire brush. And you're gonna take the wire brush, work it back and forth, get the main stuff off, and you kind of polish it with this SOS. If you do not get it clean enough, the truck will not start. I have had that issue before. And it's a pain in the butt. So you really want to make sure you get it clean first, and then once you do, you can hopefully fire it up. With the way this is set up, I'm gonna actually plug the ECM in outside of the truck with this plugged in, the hydro chip, and I'm gonna start it up, make sure everything works, and I'll plug the module back in. So that's the way I'm gonna do this setup, just because you can. So here we go. Now this part's pretty simple. Here's your chip or programmer, whatever you want to call it, and that is going to plug in, like I said, to this piece right here. We've cleaned it all up. We've done what we could as far as that goes. It should be clean enough. If not, we'll know right away. And then you literally are going to take this programmer, slide it in there, and basically just hook it up, plug it right in, and plug it back in the truck. So let me try to finagle it in there. I'm going to have to take my hands off here because I only got one hand to deal with. So I'm going to do that and then show you guys it plugged in. All right, so here we go. It is plugged in the back of the ECM. So basically now I'm gonna take the hydro chip, which is all plugged in here with this cable. It's a one-way cable or both two-way cable, it can go either way. It's plugged in the other side of the chip. We're gonna plug this thing back in the engine harness of the bus, which the hood fell off. But we're gonna plug that thing back in, and now we'll fire it up, make sure it all works. If it does, I know my chip's seated properly and I don't have any issues there. And hopefully we can do it one time and call it a day. So now that's plugged in, I got my little hydro chip box there just sitting there. I'm gonna turn this key on. You're gonna see that thing light up. And then that is it. Looks like we should be good. Let me make sure it starts. It starts. as simple as this. You're gonna push this button up. That's your high idle. I always check the high idle to make sure it works. I think they put 7 files on this thing. This should be 80 horsepower now. Oh yeah. Thing's like a race car. All right, I'm gonna go back and basically shut it off, unplug the main connector on the ECM. Once I do that, I'll put the ECM back in the firewall, bolt it all up, and then I'll run our little module here inside the cab. And once that's all done, now we have another thing that's gonna up the limiters and stuff, which we gotta plug into these. These old Internationals are a little different than later model stuff. There's not as much adjustment on some of these things. So we have to plug this Orion module in. We'll get this thing programmed up. And this thing will be a ripper. For a little test ride.
Oh yeah, she's moving out now. Like it. Feel better? The look of joy on his face. He is excited. Never see an unhappy bus driver, you know it?
It is a unit now, it's moving.
Yeah. It spins the tires when you take off. Oh yeah, it just burns the tires. It doesn't really, I told him that. He's gonna try to do it a bunch more now. Locked in, old son.
Really am.
You gotta stay in there all night.
That thing's, there is no door thing.
It doesn't look any worse than some of the ones I've seen people live in. There is definitely a door thing. Don't break them.
So we're putting the final touches on Cleet's bus. We got her ripping. We got her running good. Ah, buddy, what do you got going on back here?
Oh, I just made a window of opportunity.
So they say a big thing on these buses is you got to weld the diffs on them. They really want you to weld them. For that reason, it doesn't pick up and start spinning going around the corners. So my boy, rather than the last one we did, which was my bus, we pulled the whole pumpkin out and said, why don't we just cut a big hole in the back of this housing? And we just weld right through the housing. It's only getting raced in school bus figure eights. I said, my man, that's a pretty dang good idea. And look at that. Genius. Genius at work right now. So now he's gonna weld his window back in. This is not something you should do on your daily or any vehicle you drive.
I think you should.
Just pull your cover off, guys. Do not. Everybody should start. So if we didn't do this, we would have to pull the whole pumpkin out, which is a pain in the butt. So, or the whole chunk. So now he's done this, should be good. Weld this thing in place, and the diff is fully welded. Only took you what, about an hour?
Yeah,
About 45 minutes to an hour probably. So a lot faster than the other way. And this bus is done and going to be ready for tour destruction this weekend at the Freedom Factory. Don't forget, guys, do not miss out. Tour destruction this weekend. It's going to be an epic event. Lots of wrecks, lots of crashes. So as soon as we're done with his bus, we're going with Mr. James' bus in here, and we're going to weld the rear end on James' bus. We're going to turn the pump up on that manually. We'll show you a little feature on that, show you how to do that. So another really cool feature for the bus is going to be this Orion reflash system, which we also got from Power Hungry Performance. It's for Navistar engines. They basically, you can go in and you can up the rev limiter, the speed limiter, a couple different things, and then the overall in drive rev limiter too. So pretty cool deal. Give you all the horsepowers you need along with more revs and more RPMs, and should be able to really rip this thing. So That's what we're gonna do next. Plug this in. Takes about 5-10 minutes. Very easy, simple deal. Buy one of these for all your internationals, and then you gotta buy, I think you gotta buy like licenses or something for the later model ones. But for these, plug them in and you're good to go. So we'll get her plugged in, tune her up, get some more horse ponies out of it. All right, guys, so we are down to no more buses. We gotta finish up a couple things on my bus. We're gonna put an exhaust on it. The tuning's been done on all the buses. Everything is ripping. I didn't get a chance to get the James bus and crank the pump up. I'm still gonna try to do that. I just don't wanna open up a can of worms yet. So we'll see if we get to that. I'm not 100% sure, but Cleet's bus is running good. My bus is running good. James' bus is running good. I'm just gonna try to crank it up a little bit more power. So we'll see what we can do there. Get an exhaust built on mine. And we're headed to the Tour of Destruction at the Freedom Factory. Let's go, guys. Thank you so much for watching the J. Cecil channel. We will see you next time.